Hey there, and welcome to the Confident Woman Podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Brooks. Join me as I sit down and chat with co-hosts, friends, and carefully curated guests and talk about all the things that empower you to become your best and most confident self. So, let's get started.
If your life looks fine on the outside, but you feel off on the inside, this episode is for you. Because that disconnect is usually where fear gets loudest and where most people start negotiating with their calling instead of moving. Today, I'm sitting down with Thea Wood, co-founder of Hive Fit Club in Scottsdale, Arizona, a world-class wellness destination built around community, recovery, and whole person transformation. But what makes this conversation powerful isn't the size of what she's built. It's the fact that her story started the way so many stories start: tired, insecure, overwhelmed, and finally willing to ask for help. We're talking fear, faith, discipline, identity, and what happens when you stop trying to fix your life with more and start building it from within. So welcome to the Confident Woman Podcast.
Today we have with us Thea Woods. She has an incredible story, and I'm super excited for us to dive into today's conversation because what her and her husband are doing are just transforming lives from within. And so before we hit record, we were just having this beautiful conversation, and I said, hang on, we got to pause because we have got to share this on the episode. So welcome, Thea.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here with you, Rachel, and just to have this conversation today.
Yes, this is going to be something that I think we all need. And whether or not we've heard it before, it serves as a reminder that for us to really transform our lives, we have to start from within. And I would love for you to share a little bit more about you, your backstory, and kind of how you got into the works that you do today.
Yeah. Well, I want to start with you're not alone. I think that's the biggest thing, in this journey. God has been the center of my life since I was a very young girl. But in my 20s, after having our two beautiful girls, I dreamed about being a mom. And there I was having my beautiful kids. But I didn't have the energy that I had dreamed in my mind that I would have. I wasn't able to go down the slides. I was sitting on the park bench. And it really took me reaching out and asking for help. At 29 years old, I decided to yet again try to lose this 40 pounds that had been like hanging over my head for years. And I'm so grateful that I didn't quit. I didn't quit trying. So I think that's my biggest cry out to the women out there is like, don't stop trying, because that was the catalyst for me reaching out. I went on to lose 40 pounds. And that was like the door that opened in my life that I began to coach other people and be trained and how to mentor and come alongside people through a structured program. And it was revolutionary in my life. And so, at 29 years old, now I'm 45. So I've got adult children. One of them just competed in a fitness competition this past 2 weeks ago. And I just think, what if I would have stopped trying? I think that's where you find a lot of women that shame comes in and fear and resentment and all that comes in. And it's just, I'm so grateful. And that's really, for me, it was kicking fear in the face and deciding to reach out and ask for help.
Yes, that's beautiful. And I can relate to so much of what you're sharing. And, for me, is I struggled with my body, self-acceptance. I felt I was overweight, but that's what body dysmorphia feels like, because I felt like I was trapped in this body that was bigger than it was. And I just really struggled with self-acceptance and self-love. And I kept doing all the diets and failing after trying many and several and all the things pretty much at this point. And I got to that point and it was just like, I can't keep doing this anymore. And I had to ask for help. So I love it, when you talk about asking for help and the concept of you're not alone, there's that me too, there's that asking for help. What it does is really gives us that courage and confidence to say, you know what, we have to surrender our way because it's not working, right?
Right.
Something has to change. And so I'd love to hear a little bit of your take on that, what that felt like with the resistance of letting go, because I know that when we're trying so hard, we're essentially tightening the grip on control.
Yeah.
What was that like?
Oh, I think that letting go of, like, for me, it was like pride. I thought I could figure this out on my own. And I think a lot of us are in that boat. And that's really what my husband and I have spent the last like 17 years of our life, is just devoting our lives to helping other people realize that they're not meant to do life alone. The enemy wants to keep you in isolation. And just, I spent too many years giving that power over to the enemy, just lived in shame, lived in pride. Like, oh, those girls can get healthy, but that's not for me. And I was very cynical, and I allowed that to come into my life. And I just think that there's so much power when we surrender. And I was just in such a place, like, I remember just like being on my knees in that season of my life, praying for literally my husband. He lost 75 pounds. I lost 40 pounds. I was praying for an answer for him because I knew he was going off to work, running our businesses at the time. We had furniture businesses up in Portland, Oregon, and he was stressed out. I knew it. I could see it on his face. And so I was like at home praying, God, bring someone into his life that he'll listen to, that he'll go to the doctor. And little did I know that he would come home. He said, I met I met up with my friend. He's a coach. I think he can help me. Do you want to do this with me? And I'm like, no, but yes, I'll do it because this is what the answer to the prayer I've been praying. So that surrender moment of like, it wasn't how I thought it would come into my life. Hell, this wasn't my path, but God has a bigger plan.
Right. Oh, I love that because it's, the more I think for me, the deeper I go in my faith, it's the surrender keeps changing and evolving as I'm going further and further.
Yeah.
And I can relate to that as well. I mean, the surrender part. I mean, I say that I'm a recovering perfectionist, but I really didn't even know what a perfectionist was. But it was the person who had to have control on everything. Everything had to have this perfect outcome. And it was hard to start things, let alone finish things.
Yeah.
And so when we talk about that surrender, it was just, I remember just how do you let go? Like you almost had to envision yourself laying it down,
Yeah.
letting that go. And I
Yeah.
think sometimes the hardest thing is walking away then and not picking it back up.
Exactly. Exactly. And you know what came after that, Rachel, because we began to lose weight. We started to transform within, a few months. Like our bodies had transformed. We lost over 100 pounds combined in, I think it was like 4 or 5 months. So it was pretty radical of that transformation, but the people around us didn't know what to do with that. And the people that were closest to us had the hardest time with it.
Mm.
And so that was a little bit devastating, I think, at the time, because you think, well, you should be happy for me, right? Happy that I'm getting healthy. But it brought up all the insecurities in them, right? So our parents, where, we would go for dinner and stuff, and they were like, be quite judgy. Or like my mom, she would always make cinnamon rolls for me. And it was like, I'm not going to eat those cinnamon rolls, mom. And she was offended by that. So that process, I think, when you begin to step into not only getting physically healthy in the body, but in the mind and in the spirit and in your finances. I mean, that at that time we were paying off debt as well. And so some of our friends, like our friend group, kind of like got very lean in that time. So I just want to give permission on the other side of these airwaves that it's going to be okay. That I'm so grateful. It was painful, but Doug and I said, what does this have to do with us getting healthy for the future of our children and our family? And we just kept our focus of like, we had to kind of let all the noise and just focus on what we were creating for the future because they just didn't see it yet. You know what I mean?
Hmm. Yeah. Yes. Oh my goodness. The circle of friends just got tighter and leaner.
Yes.
And I can relate to that as well because I feel like we're like almost mirroring our transformation journeys, especially when we talked about fitness, because fitness to me was the catalyst to everything from the inside out. And I didn't realize that there was so much of my beliefs, my identity, my habits were all shaping and forming the future version of who I was becoming. And so when I looked at that, I had to take a step back and assess everything. And I never really looked at like the friend circle or anything. It was really about my responsibility and accountability in my life. But yeah, the friend circle got leaner real quick. And then the people closest around me were, to say, echo what you had said is they felt resentment because I was changing and they were not. So the things that I was changing, it became a reflection of what they weren't changing in. And I mean, we can go on a whole conversation about that, and maybe we do. I don't know. We will just kind of see where this one goes. But man, how that I look at that now, hindsight is one of our best teachers. And when we look back as we walked with and further into our faith as well, you and I assume is we realized that part of the prayers that we were praying for was for ourselves to be renewed and transformed. And what
Yeah.
God was doing was pruning all the things that were not aligned for his will and his way.
Yeah.
And so it's such a beautiful gift and transformation. Again, it's something very deep and personal, but yet it amplifies into every area of our lives. So the people that were closest to you, hard to accept. Let's talk about that for a moment with the relationship wise, because as you're healing and renewing and transforming your personal lives individually, both you and your husband, an
Yeah.
individual, but then collectively as a couple, how did how did that transform? And then kind of how did your circle of friends kind of catch up or either fall further aside?
Yeah. Well, what's interesting, it's like it kind of there was a pruning process, and then I feel like there was an emergence that came, a year, 2 years, 3 years down the road. It took several of our family members, and then I think our family lost over 1,000 pounds combined at one point over a 5-year time span. We've been able over the last 17 years to impact over 1 million lives and come alongside coaches all across the nation. But what if we wouldn't have cleared that pathway? Like we kind of had to run up ahead. And that's hard for, I think, for some of us. But here's the question I have is what if? What if you were to run up ahead and it changed the whole trajectory of your family and your lineage and your children and your children's children? And I had to begin to live like that. Like I couldn't focus on the here and the now. Like my mom was, trying to stuff cinnamon rolls down my throat. It was like, no, I need to create the future, not only physically, but mentally and spiritually and financially to be able to be here and be active and help move my parents off the land and get them into a better environment where they weren't so stressed out. Now they're in their 70s. They're living a great life. They moved to Colorado. And a lot of that is a testament of because we decided way back then to kind of forge forward and not allow the negative chatter at the time, because that's where they were coming from their pain points or their vantage point at the time. And I just think how many of us, we truly are creating the future in the here and now. All of our decisions, everything we do today is connected to the future we're creating. Even having this conversation with you, Rachel, it's like, I don't know when it's going to hit the airwaves, but we are creating for the future because we know there's other people on the other side of this that our voice is going to say, yeah, you can do it too. And so I had people in my life that I began to listen to, podcasters. I just started like quieting the noise. There was different Bible studies I was part of at the time that I stopped going to because it was all around food and eating donuts. And I joined a boot camp fitness thing that I joined back then. I started walking with a friend early in the morning. So I just started to put these rocks in my life that set me up to win. And even though it was a new rhythm for me, it was like I was creating the future at the same time.
Right, right. And I love what you said. You put these different rocks in place, became the new pillars, the new anchors into your life to affirm. Because sometimes if we don't, well, we can cast the vision, but if we don't have anything anchoring us down, we'll just blow with the wind and we'll
Yeah.
continue to, tether off into the routines and the friend circle and the things that had basically cost us
Yeah.
what we and were the product of what we've come, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, I can relate to so much of that because when we look at the tethering and we look at the anchoring, we have to replace habits, replace
Yep.
pillars of support. And so it becomes a trade-off. And it's almost like you're not necessarily sacrificing completely, for social activities. Maybe you replace with a healthy social activity, but to you, you're still getting that social craving. Food choices, right? I'm sure you probably found a new version of the cinnamon roll, or now at this point have allowed yourself to embrace the moderation of eating cinnamon rolls
Absolutely.
versus making that your norm. So there are trade-offs, and I think that anyone who's maybe just starting out on their journey to radically transform their life, to reclaim their power, to step fully into who they're created to be, maybe those are the seasons that you're in right now, or maybe you just kind of found yourself veered off path and you got to come back on track. What are some of the habits that you're doing each and every day? And then be honest with yourself. Are they moving the needle closer or further from where you aspire to be? Are they helping you or are they holding you back? Is it empowering or disempowering? And this isn't just about the habits, it's also our self-talk. It's the things that we're consuming. Because through and through, we're consumers of everything from the food we eat to what we watch on TV, to what we listen to what we're reading, the people we're hanging out with. I mean, the list can go on. And so everything just gets filtered internally. And then that's the byproduct of what we become.
Yeah.
So can you talk about some of the habits? I know we touched upon them, but what were some of the biggest challenges? I know that you said, with family and friends. Now I'm sure that probably hurt at first because you're like, I thought we had a deep relationship. I thought we were good. And then that changed. And then the food and
Yeah.
just environmental. And
Yeah.
kind of let's walk through that.
Yeah. Well, it first started, I mean, my structure, I've loved the program that I've coached to for the last like 17 years because it really taught me how to eat every 2.5 to 3 hours. It was all about macros and like really balancing my carbs and sugars and fats. And the program is really set up so that it sets you up to win. So that was like a big game changer for me where I tried to do it on my own and just having that coach in my life that was keeping me accountable. And then for me, it was like the community. So I just started putting myself in new rooms around healthier, fit people that honestly, in the beginning, I was quite intimidated to like go to that boot camp or go to that meeting, that I didn't know any of these people, but that's why, I mean, I have my book in front of me, but it's all about kicking fear in the face that I had to just say, Tia, there are so many people on the other side of you getting over yourself, your insecurities. And I just would go into that room and be like, okay, who's the one person I'm supposed to connect to? Like there's got to be one other girl just like me in this boot camp class. So it was just, I had to begin to put the right structures in place, instead of, how I would wake up in the morning and my rhythms of the day. I started structurally getting up earlier before my kids and getting a walk in. And now my rhythms are so much like my husband and I now for the last 4 or 5 years have been waking up like at 5:30 in the morning. We go work out together. Our kids are older now, so we can do that. But back when they were little, it was just figuring out a way that I could get out of the house for at least 20 to 30 minutes. And I lived in rainy Portland at the time, Rachel, but I would walk with this friend as a new rhythm in my life. Now it's like the back of my hand. But back then it was creating a new rhythm. So I think finding those friends that are maybe new that you're kind of scared to say, hey, would you want to go do this with me? You just never know what's going to come from those relationships.
Right, right. And I love that you brought up your book because that was kind of the segue where I wanted to go because I love the title, Kicking Fear in the Face or Kick Fear in the Face. And it's kind of like that movement and momentum because you're like, yeah, I'm kicking it. I'm knocking it down. I'm doing it, right? Because that's the action taken in movement.
Yes.
And so that's kind of so would you say that that's really like the defining moment? Because when you realized that you started reclaiming this power now, you started to build some more esteem and some confidence. And now you're just like, I'm going to kick the doors down. I'm going to get through anything, like anything in my way. I'm now becoming unstoppable.
Yeah.
So what was, and I love how you talk about it because I want to pull this into faith because the faith and the fear, listen, fear will never win when you have faith, ever, ever. And so I want to set that tone. And so how do you integrate all of this in together when it's your faith, your fitness, your family, your finances, and it comes all together where fear has no place?
Well, I mean, when you look it in the face, fear is real. I don't always love that saying where it's false evidence appearing real, because fear is very
Mhm,
real.
mhm,
But it's when you confront it and you say, I see you. I see you negativity, or I see you spirit of pride, or I see you, spirit of shame trying to come in and create doubt and negativity in my mind. And you're able to call it. So it was this season of my life where I just felt the Lord tapping me on the shoulder. And I was in my car one day. I think I dropped them off at preschool or something like that. I was sitting in my car and I just really felt the Lord say, Tia, it's time to kick fear in the face. And I'm like, I feel like I've heard that. Somebody else said that. And I go and Google it. And it's like I go buy the domain that day. This is 2011, 2012. I just go buy kickfearintheface.com. It's like nobody else had trademarked it. So I trademarked it. And it just began like the Lord would, like, when I would feel that fear, I would feel it and I would do it anyway.
mhm.
I would feel the fear and I would like take the actions, because action always diffuses fear. So you got to kind of act your way into feeling. And once you do it one time, it's like the momentum starts building, Rachel. I think you can attest to that, that it becomes unstoppable. It's just getting started. And so that is my invitation always is I'm like always like, it's time to kick fear in the face. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, what is the one thing that is holding you back from your breakthrough in this season? Because everything you want is on the other side of that one thing that's holding you.
Yeah, absolutely true. And there's this quote by Mark Twain, and I think it's Mark Twain, but he says, "Do the thing you fear the most, and the fear of death is certain." First time I heard that, that was back in, like, I don't know, like 10, 15 years ago.
Uh-huh.
And I had to reread that, and I said, wait a minute. So you mean if I just turned around and faced my fear and did the thing anyway, it has no power over me? All right. And I felt like this spiritual warrior suiting up for battle, and I was just like, come at me, you know? And it just that courage to actually say I can was the first acceptance. And then I turned around and I realized that fear diminished.
Yeah.
It just got quiet, and all of a sudden it didn't have that power. And I like to bring that into like our faith base here, because I think, for me, all those years ago, I wasn't near, where I am in my faith journey now. But for somebody who does or doesn't have that spirit of faith, but maybe they're right now kind of battling a spirit of timidity, they're afraid. There's still that fear factor in it. And I agree. There is, that analogy, false evidence appearing real. It can appear real, but when you feel it, it is real, because you're embodying something different that's not for you. And that is the thing that's causing anxiety, depression, disparity, discouragement, and all the things that aren't for us. And so, when we look at our lives, we might say, well, it's not that I'm afraid. Well, it doesn't have to be a blanket statement of afraid or fear. What are we feeling internally that is manifesting its way as a form of fear?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I feared death because I saw it very real as a young girl. My mom had type 1 diabetes. So I faced that on a daily at 2 and 3 years old. I would have to give her shots in order or get orange juice in her mouth. And so death was very in front of me since I was a young age. So I get emotional when I think about, like, I don't know what the women on the other side or the men, whoever listens to this, but when it's very real and the enemy cut, like for me, after having my third child, I had postpartum depression, like horribly bad. And I can remember, being in bed at night and just like suicidal thoughts. And I would count backwards that 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, just like I was listening to Mel Robbins and learning about metacognition and like about, we even have it in our Habits of Health book about stop, take a deep breath, challenge your emotion and choose. And so I was like processing through like this spirit of death that was like just trying to come in and steal my joy and steal this abundant life that God had planned for me. And the enemy is a thief. He comes in the night. He tries to steal, kill, and destroy. But God comes to give us life and life more abundantly. And I think when we can awaken to that, like when I awaken to God, you see me, I'm not alone in this. You're going to help me, but I have to take action. And Rachel, for me, movement was it. It changed everything for me. I think in my home growing up, I mean, I was an athlete, I did sports, but if we can move our bodies, that helps to, on a cellular level, get things like out of us, for training for a marathon. That helped me through that postpartum depression. I'm like, what can I do? At the time, I couldn't even run a mile. And I ran within a year. I trained myself to run 26.2 miles. And so you can do anything that you put your mind to, but the movement side of my healing journey of like facing that death, that spirit of fear was like, I feel like the catalyst to what Doug and I are doing even today. Cause it's like, yes, you can get your nutrition in order. Yes, you can, get your circle of friends, but movement is such a key part on a cellular level to like walk out healing in your body.
I agree. I agree. And there's, we look at the emotions, right? The bottle up emotions of what we feel throughout the day, whether it's the stressors, the sitting all day, the pain in our joints and inflammation, things like that. And when we look at what is stifled inside of us, if we don't have an outlet for us to get rid of it, we have to excrete this pent up energy, negative and positive. And that's why movement is so key, because it's essentially energy in motion is the movement of a release for our emotions. And I love that analogy, because when I find myself, if I'm bogged down or just in a poor mood or something's, feeling like I'm being attacked, I get out. I get out of the house or get a change of scenery and just get moving. And the next thing I know, it's almost like this weight is just falling off of me, like metaphorical. And, you can walk yourself through weight loss as well. And it's
Yeah.
all good. It's all good.
Yeah.
And, it's really created this whole dynamic of how I've redefined fitness. And I'm hearing so much of what your whole story here is about redefining what that was, because you didn't really have a definition for this lifestyle, because you hadn't had a vision for it as well. And so now that you're in it, sometimes the vision comes after, but the vision comes through motion. It comes through action taking. And
Yeah.
so as you've learned to redefine fitness, you're stepping fully more into a season of freedom, of finding freedom. And so I want to talk about what you got going on in not only in your online space, because you're doing some incredible things in the online space, but you've also brought brick and mortar back to purpose now in your local community. And
Yeah.
so you have this beautiful community of individuals that are committed to transforming their lives.
Yeah.
I'd love for you to tell our listeners more about that as well. And so how they can also get involved too. So pause for a second, but listeners, we had to set the stage in the story here, because what Tia is doing, and oh my gosh, her alongside of her husband is incredible. And I'm just going to let Tia take this over for a moment.
Okay. Well, it's been a wild journey. I mean, 2020 changed the world. It actually supercharged what we were doing in the online space, because everybody was locked up in their homes and they needed a way and an outlet. So, our online community really grew, and we were able to help people all across the nation in their health while being kind of, you know, all hunkered down in our homes and stuff like that. But then what's crazy is we said yes. We said yes to this crazy call to go back into brick and mortar. We said we would never be in brick and mortar again. We closed our furniture stores way back in Portland, Oregon, and went full time into coaching. But in 2023, Doug and I went on this journey to go and do a fitness competition, which this is your world. It was just something he wanted to do for his 45th birthday. And so we started going to all these clubs and these gyms, and it was so fun. We were traveling and going all across the nation and honestly the world. We had traveled to over 30 nations since 2014, I think it is, that we've gone. And so, but we would always come back here to our city in Scottsdale, and we'd be like, I wonder if there's a gym like when we were in that city, like in Vegas or in LA. And we would come back here, and it was always like, what if we would create something here? So in 2023, we said, okay, let's do it. What started as a small little gym became a whole-fledged all wellness center, one-stop place called the Hive Fit Club here in Scottsdale, and we just opened our doors January of 2025. So we're coming up on a full year here of being open and just welcoming so many members, lots of guests. We have a lot of Canadians and Europeans that fly in. I mean, Scottsdale's kind of become this new like vacation spot. So we have a lot of guests that come in, but we really wanted to put everything under one roof, from ozone therapy and Hocket, which is a Hocket, it's called. It's ozone therapy, to red light therapy, to cold plunging and hot saunas and state-of-the-art bodybuilding equipment. We have Arsenal gym equipment, which is made in Knoxville, Tennessee. So we have American-made bodybuilding equipment. And then we also it's all around community. So we have a coffee shop and a smoothie bar and a Connect lounge and a big group fitness classroom. And so what started as like us getting into this realm and being invited into the room, it's like we decided, okay, this city has been, Rachel, we came out here to Scottsdale in 2014. Our girls were 7 and 5 at the time. And this city has become our home, and it's really grown us. Being around this environment of health has really grown us. And so this is kind of our way of like giving back to our city and also putting our roots down in the city. We want to make an impact and be a hub for people to come, restore, heal. We have a couple LAPDs that are at our club this week, healing for the next 21 days, doing like a detox with us. So we're having a lot of fun. We have a whole medical division too that we can help people. So Rachel, it's wild. When you say yes to God, watch out. Watch out.
Yep. Oh my gosh. I mean, it's so true. It's like you try to build this on your own, and your vision, as big as it might be, it's like, I got you. I'm going to like, that's just a microscope. I'm going to amplify what I'm going to do for you. And it's all you had to do is just say yes and surrender your way, your will to his way and his will, and watch what he can do. And you probably never imagined how big this could be. And even when you started this journey, you and your husband, your goal was just to lose some weight so you can feel.
Lose some weight.
Yeah,
So I
just
can go down the slide with my kids.
exactly, so you can play with your kids. But you don't realize how the impact and the ripple effect and the change that transpired inside has gone over to you've helped over 400,000 people.
Yeah.
400,000 people worldwide.
Yeah.
Because you said yes to you.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's powerful. And just think, what if you were to say yes to getting in that room, that invitation to go to that conference, that invitation to go next level in your health, like that, taking the stage. I never thought I would ever do a fitness competition or anything like that. But when my husband's like, I really want to do this. And it wasn't to necessarily win. It was to win our own battle of the mindset around taking the stage and the discipline, the self-control. Because I think that is the biggest battle this side of eternity, that when we can learn that discipline and that self-control and that power of, it's not about perfection. I mean, I lived that. I've lived that. You've lived that too. This isn't about perfection. This is about finding a rhythm of grace and freedom and movement and love for yourself, because you can't, if you're not loving here, you can't pour it out to your kids, to your family. So the greatest gift, we believe, is the gift of health for yourself and true transformation. So it's not vanity. It's not about just losing the pounds. It's I say we're not about losing weight. We're about releasing. Like, are you ready to release that 50 pounds? Are you ready to release that 10 pounds? Because if you just want to lose it, it's probably going to find its way back to you. But if you're ready to truly release it, then let's go. We'll partner with you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And even for me, the same thing. It's like, I just wanted the freedom, and I didn't know what the freedom meant to me at that time. I just didn't want to feel the way that I felt for as long as I did. And I knew that there had to be a way out. And the minute I started reclaiming that power, when I say power, it means knowledge. You start, the awareness aspect of it. So once you're aware of what is holding you back, which, let's be honest, it's yourself, right? You don't know what you don't know, but you have to let go of that idea that it's somebody else's fault or somebody else can get me the weight loss, or if I hire this coach, I'll transform. But if you're not doing the inner work, none of that will stick. So it's getting out of your own way. And then I started teaching myself about nutrition and understanding because it was just a riddle I couldn't understand at all. I was just like, I'm doing the thing. Why don't I have the results? And then when you lose the weight, to your point, you gain it right back plus. And it's the cycle of, yeah, I felt like I was just this dog chasing its tail and I could never catch it. And I was burned out, exhausted. And then I would look in the mirror and just be like, yep, there was the same thing I didn't like in the first place. But when I started learning about nutrition, health, habits, the sleep quality, managing stress, the power of gratitude, the power of self love, oh my gosh, it's the radical transformation and a gift that you give yourself that then amplifies and tenfolds out to all the people that your lives impact. And the one person, like I think we can both testify here, is we only wanted to change our own lives and we
Yeah.
had no idea. So for
Yeah.
me, in my fitness competitions, I did it just as a way to get out of this, feel like, okay, well, I've done everything else. I hadn't done this new bikini division bodybuilding stuff. Let's give that a go. And it was the worst experience. That was back in 2012. So when I actually figured it out between this season, because I had ended up rupturing my disc, having back surgery, a permanent nerve damage, all because of the training so hard to get to the point without understanding why I was doing it in the first place.
Yeah.
So in that 2 years, I had to take back that power, figure it all out on my own. And then I stepped on stage. And what renewed on stage in 2015 was the catalyst for everything that came about. And so hence the podcast, the book, the transformations, the lives that we've impacted, the countless lives of women all over the world that have been a part of this.
Yeah.
And I'm just saying this to echo what Tia is saying, is because the power of one, and the one is the person you have to change, is you. And
Yeah.
start with you. So if you're sitting on that fence and you're just wondering like, dang, do I go? This is your permission. Just say yes to you. And in all honesty, it's going to suck and you're going to flop and you're going to fail. But the minute you give up is the minute that you've surrendered and gone back to where you were. But you have to get up and keep trying. And that's what confidence and resiliency will help you get back up. So I'd love for you to talk about, briefly with, you're building this business,
Yeah.
reclaimed your life and your marriage, your purpose, and this partnership that you're doing with your husband
Yeah.
and building this business. And what is next in line for you guys?
Oh, go. So we're 25 years. We just celebrated this year. It's wild. We were 19 and 21. We got married. So it's been a wild ride and one worth, I'm so grateful that I took. And it's a daily commitment to, each other, to the mission, like our family mission of just first connectivity in our home. Like that has been the biggest thing that we feel like for our 4 children is our parents did their work in their generation, but we don't, like, I made a decision a long time ago to stop blaming them and start thanking them for the work that they did, and then also get to be excited about the work we're doing. So, our vision is like staying connected as a family and really making impact here in our city of Scottsdale. We're very passionate about, we have a couple homes that we support with safe houses for young women that are having babies. And we're very passionate about education and helping globally in that way. And so, I mean, it's so interesting because now that we've launched the Hive, I think the biggest thing that our next season of our life is just to help more people, help more families get healthy in mind, body, and spirit. And sometimes in like a tangible way, it's like what I would love to see is across this nation to like see fires burning of whether it's a hive. Yes. I mean, maybe we'll probably have more hives across the nation, I would say in the next 10 years. We'll see. What I mean, God knows, like he'll open the doors. But what I'd love to see is just more people stepping up and saying, I'm ready to take personal responsibility. I'm ready to let my story, my places of pain be my power to reign and have authority and use it as a testimony because it didn't happen to you, it happened for you, and God wants to use that. You never know. I mean, I've sat on airplane seats next to people that divinely, like I was able to connect them to a counseling center that they were able to get their wife in that next week for treatment. When you think, okay, why am I going through this season with my sibling? and getting him in this treatment center and going through this whole journey, that 5 years later, I would help a gentleman sitting next to him in the seat, that I could help him get his wife in that same treatment center. Like, everything is all working together for our good. And so Doug and I are just excited to help more families be connected, more families be mission oriented, and parents to be healthy. Because that's the biggest thing is if we can get healthy in body and get moving and get out there. And I mean, we're not saying, yeah, go out and do a fitness competition. No, like, we're saying get into community, find a fitness club that you're going to be plugged into, find accountability. If you're like, for us, it started like at Orange Theory, like way back. So find what's in your local community, get plugged in. And hey, if you're in Scottsdale, we'd love to have you come see us at the Hive.
Yes. And of course, get plugged in your online community
Yes.
too. Tell them more about that, because if you're not in Scottsdale, you're not missing out. There's
You're not
still
missing out.
ways to get involved. And so
Yep.
tell them more about that.
Okay. So you can follow us at Thea Wood. So it's spelled Thea, TheaWood. So you can follow me there. We can get you plugged into all of our communities. On Instagram, I have a little community called the Rhythm Reset Challenge, kind of, so they can join me there. You can also join me over at Kick Fear in the Face on Instagram. That's another hub that, I'm daily posting inspirational things there. And then obviously follow us at the Hive Fit Club. We're always doing events, even if it's like we're doing stuff here locally, we're sharing how you can get connected virtually as well.
Yes, absolutely. And so follow along, man. They're just changing lives and changing worlds. And I'm just super, super impressed with what you guys are doing. And I know this all glory goes to God, but man, it's just beautiful when you could witness this and be a part of this transformation just as a collective as well. So Tia, I just want to thank you for being my guest today and just sharing your wisdom and your story and your inspiration with our listeners. So of course, guys, if you're listening, click the links in the show notes below. Make sure to follow Tia and her husband and stay connected to the Hive. And it's just, I love the name because it is this connective, collaborative collective. So I love that. So Tia, thank you. Thank you so much for today's conversation.
Yeah. Thank you, Rachel. Thank you for letting me get to share to your audience, and just praying blessings on you and all that's to come in this next season.
Hey there. Thank you so much for joining me on today's episode of the Confident Woman Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode as much as I did, please be sure to like, subscribe, and leave us a review. Thanks again for listening.